New details on the heartbreaking abuse of special needs children. Tonight, for the first time, you'll hear from educators who say school officials allowed it to happen for years.
I listened to 2 hours of interviews, and it is just heartbreaking to hear the stories of abuse of children who can't speak up for themselves. And to make matters worse, parents say the school system continues to cover it up.
I was flabbergasted by that this was even acceptable behavior done by a teacher and that it was condoned within the school.
How hard was she hitting?
Enough for me to be concerned.
Multiple teachers were interviewed, and what you realize when you put them all together is that it was a daily living hell for these kids.
Where she kind of pushes them against the wall, like she backs them up against the wall when she calls it jacking up.
It was like she got a kick out of just messing with him or something. I don't know.
That seems strange.
Always saying his mom was a crackhead, and she called him a little effer.
She passed gas right in his face. Like got right up in his face and passed gas maybe 1 to 3 inches.
During the interviews, educators say they reported Pickens to then principal Frances Boyd, who intimidated them from coming forward and brushed it under the rug.
The big whisper around that hallway was, how many times does this girl have to be reported before something's done?
But the cover-up continues today. Officials who read this report 4 years ago still have not told parents their children had been abused.
How can you do an investigation and substantiate and identify abuse in my child, and I don't have to be notified? That is scary.
Lisa Williams says her son Alex was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after leaving Pickens' class.
The way this abuse continues is because it is tolerated, accepted, and condoned. It is a complete lack of concern.
We never anticipated that school would damage him.
The parents of Alex Williams are asking a judge to require the Fulton County school system to pay for Alex's future education costs. They estimate that could be somewhere around $2.5 million. In court today, teachers and assistants took the stand saying that they reported abuse to administrators who then just covered it up.
She could be sitting at her desk and just wanted to pay his gas, and whichever child there was a child that got it. At that moment, you know, she would just get in their face.
I've been up into the locker some days, pretty much every day.
And she would call them little f***s.
Yes.
And she would call them little s***s.
Yes.
If that had been my child, I would have been furious.
But you would agree that the school district was where she was hurting kids for many years.
The fact that she kept worked at Hopewell, yes, correct.
It's about damage control.
What it shows me is a systemic pattern of abuse of those children who can't go home and tell their parents what's happening.
Why didn't the Fulton County School District tell the parents of Alex Williams and other students about the abuse? This 2007 investigative report is just 29 pages. It spells it all out. The school board president testified she didn't know what was in it for one shocking reason.
I did not read the investigation report.
Are you aware that an adult and employee of the school district put her buttocks in his face?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You would call that abuse?
Yes.
That's what my superior instructed me to do. I was not given authority to go any further.
He refuses to say the word happy. And that was one of his first words. And it was very scary because he had had such a precious personality and we were losing him. And I didn't know why.
What she and her husband didn't know, their 14-year-old son's teacher was shoving him into lockers, cursing at him, and apparently locking him in a dark room.
I was totally unprepared for the corruption. What I feel like is a cover-up and an intentional attempt to prevent me from finding any of this out.
I don't trust Fulton County School District to take care of her.
Why is she in Fulton County School District?
I don't have a choice. If I don't send her to school, I'll be in jail.
Meanwhile, Alex lives with a new diagnosis, post-traumatic stress disorder.
It's devastated him, it's damaged him, it's changed his life, it's changed our lives. It's changed his brothers and sisters' lives. It's horrendous. Wow. That's great. That's what I wanted.
Lisa Williams becomes emotional after I break the news. Roswell and Fulton County School Police will now investigate alleged abuse of her son Alex and other children by their teacher.
Do you think there should be someone in jail for this?
The first time, I thought there should be one person. Now, I think there may be more.
And you've seen her burp in children's faces?
Yes.
Scream at them?
Yes.
She would shove him up into the locker some days, pretty much every day, basically.
It's not just Miss Pickens, it's not Miss Boyd, it is the area superintendent, it is the middle school coordinator for special education, it is everyone who knew that these children were being abused. I pray that they will all have criminal activity taken against them, and therefore it will stop.
In this case that is now under investigation, the school district apparently never told parents that a teacher had abused their children. The new superintendent says changes are on the way and staff will be held accountable.
Are you concerned about the allegations of a cover-up by the Fulton County Schools?
So I'm concerned about any allegation, whether it's an allegation of violence or it's an allegation of cover-up. I'll continue to work with staff on that. And, you know, if there were instances where folks didn't act appropriately, we're going to hold them accountable.
If it's found that the students are abused by an employee or another student in school, will the school district tell parents about that?
So our policy right now is that parents are notified when there's an allegation of abuse.
And that will happen then? The policy will be followed?
The policy is, that's what policy is. It's for staff to follow.
It bears repeating, Dr. Avosa was not employed by the district when this all happened, but he will deal with this for some time. The district is facing legal action from parents and now a criminal investigation.
Now to some new details in the stunning verdict against the Fulton County school system. A judge ruled the district knew students were being abused, covered it up, and then tried to keep the parents from finding out.
Now, at the heart of the case, Alex Williams. The young man lives with cerebral palsy and couldn't tell his parents about the abuse. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, the judge found the district violated laws that are meant to protect disabled people like Alex. Now the district has been ordered to pay for his future education costs. The family attorney says taxpayers should be outraged. The judge's 65-page decision, handed down Wednesday, found the Fulton County school system significantly violated his rights to an appropriate education.
It changed him. I believe it changed his brain. It changed his ability to trust.
I'd suggest taxpayers should be outraged. The outrage should begin that they would hire a teacher, Fulton County would, and allow her to abuse children and then continue that abuse for 5 years. Then cover it up, and then start litigating it.
In a statement, the district writes, "This situation never should have happened, and our hearts go out to the family for what their child has experienced. It is in no way an indication of the character or culture of Fulton County schools." The Williams family now plans to file a $10 million federal lawsuit against the district and the upwards of 20 employees who they say didn't stop the abuse. The criminal investigation spurred by our reporting on this issue is still continuing.
At 6 o'clock, some are questioning Fulton County Schools' decision to promote a police captain to chief. Now, this chief is the same officer who admittedly did not investigate allegations of abuse against special needs students.
Captain Ussery testified at the hearing that he had to follow orders. Even as a police officer, he had to follow orders.
Defense attorney Chris Vance is concerned after Fulton County Schools promoted Felipe Ussery to police chief. Vance says she's worried because Ussery is the same officer who learned about horrific abuse of special needs students at Hollowell Middle School and did not pursue it because he says he was following orders.
Why does an officer of his experience and of his caliber need policy to know that this should have been reported years ago?
Right. I can't speak to the direct issues that you're addressing, the kinds of questions that you're addressing. What I can tell you is this. As the new superintendent, I know that there's a need to put in place the kinds of structures to keep our families feeling confident in our ability to keep the children safe.
Tonight, attorneys are still not satisfied with that answer, and they plan to go to the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Justice to file a complaint.
And Guy, these are the court documents that were just released. They do show that an HR member, a high-ranking member, knew that this abuse was going on, but apparently, according to these documents, just brushed everything under the rug.
We're talking severe abuse, we're talking ongoing abuse, we're talking hitting, slapping, pushing, shoving down, depriving of food.
Court documents just released show the principal reported the actions to Ralph Lynch in HR, but still, Lynch did nothing to stop the abuse.
So it seems like all this was going to HR and then being stopped. But he said, according to Ms. Boyd, no, we don't fire her, no, we don't write her up. Therefore, no action plan and no way to even police her behavior going forward.
Did you abuse Jake and Alex and Aaron?
Education system's very political, I guess is the best way to put it. And when they find somebody that they think is weak, they like to go after.
If anyone would have reported it, abuse would have stopped. My hope is he will vigorously and aggressively prosecute all of the individuals responsible.
And Pickens has resigned, and she lost her teaching license for 3 years. As for Lynch, he could not be reached for comment tonight. Vance hopes that she will meet with the district attorney to talk about charges being filed sometime next week.
It said she rubbed her breast and her buttocks in Jake's face. When I read that, I about died.
But apparently that was going on with
Yeah.
all the kids
Yeah.
because it came out in my hearing.
Judy Marshall and Lisa Williams' friendship has roots in a shared anguish. Each has a son, a special needs son, abused by their middle school special needs teacher, Melanie Pickens.
I never, in my wildest imagination, would have ever thought anything like this would have been going on in a public school.
Neither Jake nor Alex had the verbal ability to tell anyone they were being hurt. Their parents knew nothing. The Fulton County School District put Principal Boyd in a new position that allowed her to use up her unpaid and paid leave, then retire the next year with her pension. Boyd's certificate to teach in Georgia was eventually surrendered. At the time, she denied violating the Code of Ethics in any way. As for Pickens, she immediately resigned following the 2007 investigation, and her certification was revoked. Jake Marshall's parents eventually obtained a copy of the Pickens investigation report. They were appalled to learn what had happened to their son and other youngsters in Jake's class. Hitting, screaming, vulgar language, and being strapped in a chair, isolated and alone in darkened schoolrooms.
I read it. I called Judy and I said, what do? We got to call the police. And she kind of laughed and said, been there, done that. They're not going to do anything. For me, I think one of the hardest things was getting him to read the investigation. Because that's what he does. He takes care of children. And so to read an investigation about what happened to Alex, he didn't want to.
Their son was mentioned throughout. They read that Melanie Pickens slammed Alex into lockers face first nearly every single day. Alex was yelled at, hit, and even knocked over onto the concrete sidewalk.
I thought he had something medically going on, and we kept searching for it. And unfortunately, we found it was the abuse that, and the PTSD that was really causing his, all of his regression and symptoms.
When you look at the behavior that's alleged of the former teacher and principal, it's inexcusable. And I'm upset about it deeply.
Do you think that then Principal Frances Boyd and Melanie Pickens should be charged with the crime?
I'll leave that to the experts in the field, whether that's the DA's office or the police department.
Scratching himself to the point of bleeding, pulling his hair out, just terrible self-injurious behaviors because he didn't know what else to do with the frustration.
They all regressed potty training. They all started isolating themselves in their room.
It just breaks you down. You just can't imagine how gut-wrenching it is to know what's happened. And you kept sending them back day after day.
The hurtful part is that she cannot speak. She can't tell us what she went through, so that in itself is a pain.
Persati's daughter and her classmates were taught in an area called G Hall at Hopewell. Court documents say then Principal Frances Boyd rarely spoke to the G Hall students, showed little concern for them, and even once said she didn't know why these children were in school because they, quote, can't really do anything.
It may take a lifetime for us to get these kids back to where they were.
It might have been monetarily free, but I think the children have paid the highest price for that free public education, a very, very high price. Their little minds were already just hanging on, you know. It took everything they could do to cope on a daily basis. And then to put that on top of that, they've paid the ultimate price.
If the teachers are allowed to resign and there aren't criminal charges brought, they're going to end up in a school system somewhere else. And that's the scary part.
In court documents, Pickens denies she abused pupils at Hopewell Middle School, and Boyd states that she actually reported Pickens' conduct to a social worker and the school's personnel department, but was told not to fire Pickens.
Case is now in the hands of the district attorney, Paul Howard, and he will be the one who will decide who, if anyone, needs to be arrested.
The Fulton County School Police roll 5 boxes into the district attorney's office. They contain reports and evidence investigators compiled while digging into allegations of student abuse at the hands of former teacher Melanie Pickens. If the only result is that the teacher is arrested, you won't be happy with that?
No, I would have to say it's still a culture because it was allowed to go on. Bad situation when you feel like you can't trust the very people investigating the crime. I just feel like there's a real conflict.
New details tonight about the teacher charged with abusing disabled children in a Fulton County middle school. Well, today, a grand jury indicted 34-year-old Melanie Pickens on 11 counts of cruelty to children and false imprisonment.
Why did it take so long? And why did it take us parents pushing to get it to this point? You can see a lot of changes in him, not wanting to be around other people, not wanting to go to school.
He lost everything: personality, language, toileting.
Other people within the school system knew, administrative people knew that things were going on, and yet nothing was stopped.
It was a crime. And I think the indictment today certainly acknowledges that there was criminal behavior. And so then you have to ask, why were police not involved?
How confident are you that more people will be held accountable for this, for the alleged cover-up?
I almost feel like it just depends on how long we can persevere.